Video games. I love video games, but I wondered what game could I possibly talk about. So I asked some of my friends and I was suggested to talk about the game Batman Arkham Asylum. And to be fair, that's a great choice. I love comic books and I love Batman. But there is something else I wanted to include into my bingo card of stuff I like. And it's cinema. But how can cinema fit into all this, you may ask? Well, how about I show you how great this game is by just analyzing the first cutscene. Alright? Okay, let's start. The game opens to a night sky, and like any regular day in Gotham, it's raining. But how do we know we're in Gotham? Well, this. As we go down, you might have expected the man itself to show up. But no, it's just a statue. Or is it? Well, let's put the original statue aside, we'll come back to it later. As we keep going down, we see gargoyles, but not any gargoyles. Those are the one you can use later on in the game to grapple onto them. So it's a nice little hint for future gameplay mechanics, to keep the player curious, you know? However, something more important is coming. Listen to this.
The Joker has been apprehended. Batman is now en route to Arkham Island.
When we hear the police officer talking for the first time, two things happen. We hear the first part about something concerning enough for the whole police department to show up, making you think that something huge is happening. But then you have the second part. You hear that the Joker has been stopped and Batman is putting him away. And now you're left wondering that you might have missed the action. The sirens of the police cars and the ambulance passing by confirms that maybe you're indeed too late to see the action. But then you see the Batmobile rushing toward you, and you think to yourself, well, maybe I get to play now. Maybe I'll get to see Batman. But yet again, they're teasing us, because even if we already saw Batman on the title screen, we're still itching to see him for real. So, after that we see that Batman is a careless driver, which, you know, who cares, it's Batman, we are getting closer to our destination, with the assumption that it might be dangerous. A little bit. And then, just like before, the Batmobile is growing near. But this time, it looks like it's not gonna turn. This time, we see Batman. However, it's still pretty enigmatic, because we don't get to see them fully, and the light flickers, and it's making it really hard to have a good look at them. But even if it's hard to see what's happening, we already saw what we need to know about them. Batman is shown in a still shot. He's very calm, barely moving, and he's not saying anything. However, Joker's shots start from the bottom and goes up. He's agitated and almost shaking, and he's talking and giggling.
Stand back, fool, I've got a bomb! Huh? Alright.
In a matter of seconds, even if you didn't know anything about Batman, you have been caught up to speed on who was serious, who is not, who is good, and who is bad. But most importantly, it introduces us to their duality, which I'll talk about in a bit. So I guess I'll save the best for last. Hey, remember the first statue we saw? Well, now it's time to talk about them, because as you can see, there are several statues now. This group of statues are pretty different from the first one. The first statues on top are not even statues of angels. But let's get our attention on the other ones below. And already we can see that they are pretty similar looking, though they do have differences from one another. The group of angel statues are holding lanterns, as the other one don't. They are near to the ground, whereas the first one is on the rooftop. So why are they different, despite being both statues of angel? Well, it's because they don't represent the same thing, or should I say, the same person. You see, since we're close to Arkham, I believe that those statues represent the staff of the asylum. The doctors, the nurses, the security, and so on. They represent the guardian angels of Arkham. And oddly enough, I think that when I use the term guardian angel, you might have thought of someone, you know, someone that hides his face, watches over Gotham, and uses his wings to cover himself. I think that you know who our silent guardian here must be. Okay, now that I'm done ranting about the statues, I will address the elephant in the room. As you clearly noticed, we are at the gate of the asylum. The camera is going up in the air in a similar fashion as the Joker shot, which revealed the asylum.
And I don't know about you, but I don't feel like this place is very welcoming. All of the dead trees we saw before coming in, the signs that says hitchhiker may be escaping patients, the whole gothic architecture, all of these things gives off a really gloomy feeling, like something Edgar Allan Poe would write about. But really, the thing that caught my eyes wasn't that this place could be in a Tim Burton's movie. No, it's more that, like previously said, it's an island. And since it's surrounded by water, it means that the only way out is the one we're coming in. So it's really amplifying the feeling of being stranded, being isolated in this whole mess. Because later on in the game, Batman is gonna be trapped in there alone. And I don't know about you, but for me, I don't want to be trapped in there. Especially if the kind of people are inside and the one we're bringing in.
So, after a nice fade to black, we're greeted by a door. And at first glance you may say,
What the fuck is that, man? What is that supposed to hold? Godzilla or some shit?
but no, it's just a common asylum door. But you may wonder what is common really.
This thing does not look common at all. But yes, it is.
Throughout the game, this is one of the most recurrent one you will meet. So now you see where I'm going when I'm telling you that I don't want to be trapped in there alone. If this is common, I'll let you just imagine what type of crazy people are in there. And speaking of the devil, when it opens and the fog goes away, we see the Joker on his knees and Batman. So now you're like, oh yeah, this is for this type of person. Okay, well, jokes aside, this massive and highly technological door helps bring more to the creepy ambiance that was built up until now. But which also helps with the big reveal of really seeing this time Batman and the Joker. But also, I believe that in this very shot, there is more than meets the eyes. Though, at first glance, the way the characters are shown is pretty similar to the way we saw them earlier in the car. Batman is standing up straight, not moving at all, the only thing moving is his cape, and he's looking straight ahead. And the Joker, like before, polar opposite. He's on his knees, and he's moving and looking down. And like I said, it's pretty similar to the car, but where we can really try to dig in for some symbolism is in the lighting. You may say that I'm a bit overreaching, but tell me, don't you think it's a little weird that the headlight of the Batmobile is only shining behind the Joker and not behind Batman? And there are streetlights behind Batman, but not behind the Joker. See, this cannot be just a coincidence. There must be something about the lights. And what I like to think is that the lighting kind of represent the aesthetic and the morals of the characters. For example, the headlight is shining on the Joker, but there are no streetlights behind him. So the light shining on him just shows that he's a colorful character, but within himself, he is really, really dark. And as for Batman, he's not lit up by the headlight of his car. However, he is lit up by the streetlights behind him. So even if he looks dark and grim, inside of him, Batman is a good guy. And this whole dynamic of light really reminds me of the yin and the yang, and on how they both complete each other. And the next shot exactly confirms what I'm saying. But even if we don't know it yet why Batman is looking up like that, I mean, what's up there? What is he doing? But tell me, do you remember in which direction the Joker was looking in the previous shot? Yes, he was looking down. Now, they're even mirroring themselves. I really found this brilliant, because with only those two shots, we have the whole complex relationship that the Joker and Batman have. And I figured you noticed that I made a tiny reference to Christopher Nolan's Batman movie. But if we take that same scene from the movie, the Joker says the same thing as here, except that he's telling us this, but not showing us. And maybe some of you already know where I'm going with this, but for those who don't know, well, let me tell you about the show Don't Tell. It's a pretty basic advice for writers to make a scene more enjoyable without drowning it with too much over-explanations from the characters. And in our case, like I said, Nolan's Joker is telling us that they complete each other. But this scene from the game is showing us that they complete each other. But it doesn't mean we should all be against dialogue. I mean, sure, the whole show don't tell thing is a good way to improve a story, but to be honest, when you say it, it
could make you sound like a snob cinema expert. Like,
oh, movie nowadays, they're so bad. Bring me back to when the movies were silent. Because nowadays, it's all about the he said, she said bullshit.
no, that would be ridiculous. Dialogue provides important things to a story. Point is, I found it really satisfying to watch something and understanding it without the characters actually explaining it to you. But don't worry, the dialogue will have its time to shine very soon. So, as Batman shoves the Joker in, we get our first look inside the asylum. And as you can see, the outside kind of looked like a mansion, but the inside much more like a prison. And the feeling of being inside of a prison isn't only brought by the architecture, but also by, I don't know, maybe the guards with assault rifles. But anyway, then we see the warden Quincy Sharp, and by his side we have Frank Balls, the wannabe #1 of Arkham Security. But right now, let's focus on the warden. And as you can clearly notice, this man, even though he's in charge, well, he doesn't really look like a doctor. The tuxedo, the little flower, and the cane with a crystal on it. Something tells me that this man must be a bit self-centered. But, you know, that's just a hunch. But you'll see as he starts talking, it gets a bit more obvious.
Hey, Sharpie. Love what you've done with the place.
Joker is the first one to actually talk, and you will see that all of his lines are a perfect representation of who he is.
That's Warden Shop to you.
And like I just said about him, this line proves that his ego has been hurt. Not only does he correct him about his name, but also state his grade. He needs that sign of superiority over him.
Bowles!
Yo, Frankie, how's the wife and kids? You miss me?
Shut it, clown!
A lot of people here really want to talk to you.
To be fair, when I said that the Joker's line were a perfect representation of who he is, well, that can be applied to everybody else. It worked for the Warden, and it definitely worked for Balls. Because, well, if you didn't get that Balls might not be a good guy, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Really? I don't mind walking.
This is a clever reminder of how unhinged the Joker can be. He usually acts like everything is a big joke, but for the few times he actually sounds mad, it serves as a reminder that he's a menace to everyone around him.
Not so tight, boys. You'll crease the suit.
And just like nothing happened, he goes back to his normal self. If we can call that normal.
Get that filthy degenerate out of here!
Notice that the moment the Warden chose to insult the Joker was when he was tied up and he was standing next to Batman. How practical, huh?
Warden, something's not right. I'm going with him.
And to top it all off, we have Batman's first dialogue. This single line makes you understand that the game understood Batman as a whole. So let me break this down for you. First of all, Batman says that something is wrong, and until now, we didn't have a single clue about it. For all we know right now is that Batman has captured the Joker and that he brought him here, though the player kinda knows something is gonna go wrong because a game cannot start with the capture of a major enemy such as the Joker. While nothing bad happens, he knows that something is up, but actually it seems to know more than we do. And if this part shows us the detective side of Batman, the other part shows us the hero, because as he says, I'm going with him, it also represents how Batman works, and it's a really important thing about him. Even though he follows the law as much as he can, he's able to go around it to ensure that the right people get behind bars. Batman steps in when the police aren't enough, because of the law limitation or just because they physically can't. In a way, Batman's job starts when the police jobs end.
It took just 24 hours for us to lose control of the city. Tonight, Gotham's relying on one man to save us all.
So this is why he's important to Gotham. Between the corruption of the police and the supervillain, in times of crisis,
When the police isn't enough anymore, Batman is the only hope. And unfortunately, it's usually the case in Gotham. And as Batman walks in, this is where the first cutscene of the game ends. So, what did this first cutscene exactly show us? Well, I'll say more than you can expect. Because, sure, it shows us where we are, who is the good guy, who is the bad guy, but as you could have seen, there is way more than just that. And even from everything I showed you, I feel like there are still things that I haven't talked about. There are still things hidden. For example, the tiny diner we saw at the very beginning is called Paul's, in reference to the writer of the game, Paul Dini, who you may or may not know for other Batman-related stuff like this. Point is that the developer of the game, Rocksteady, were really eager to show how capable they were, because this very game is actually the second game they ever made, but also they showed us how much they could do justice to Batman. So much so actually that they went on to do 3 games about Batman. Hi, future me here. I made a mistake. They made another game. They made Arkham VR, the one in VR, obviously. And for those who were wondering, they did not make Batman Arkham Origin. It's another studio. And they also certainly did not make a game about Suicide Squad. It doesn't exist. Check it out. It just doesn't exist. No, it doesn't exist. No, shoot now. Go. And with only the first cutscene, it shows us how much attention to details this game has, and on how much it's a labor of love, passion, and dedication. Because everything we need to know is there. Not too much, but not too little. A really good balance in which people either new to Batman or not can enjoy the game. So the last thing left for me to say is that if you thought the first cutscene of the game was good, well now it's up to you to discover how great the rest of the game really is.